Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming back, for those of you who have returned. How many first-timers do we have here to see the presentation? Good. Well, my name is Greg Moss with 9 News, and it's an honor to be here with you today. We've heard from some great companies already this afternoon. We're going to hear from some great others. And it's very inspiring to see these entrepreneurs who put so much time in the business plan portion and now the oral presentation. The way this will work, as we structured it today, we will hear from Bedside Solutions for the first 15 or 20 minutes. We will have some questions from our judging panel, and then we will open it up to questions from the audience as well. So we actively ask you to participate here at the very end. Let me introduce you to our next set of entrepreneurs, Bedside Solutions. They make and market medical devices that improve direct patient care. The company's products are designed to provide these solutions to common problems that nurses and other bedside providers encounter caring for their patients. And if any of you have had a patient or have been in the hospital yourself, this will be sort of a no-duh kind of thing. The product that they are launching is the O-Tool, that's trademarked. Conceived through co-founder John O'Leary's experience as an ICU nurse. Bedside Solutions, founded in 2010 by John, Jamie Alexander, and Joseph O'Leary as well. So please welcome Jamie and John from Bedside Solutions.
My name is Jamie. I'm a co-founder of Bedside Solutions, and I'm joined today by John, who's also a co-founder. We'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present to the three of you as well as to everyone here today. Bedside Solutions makes and markets medical products that improve direct patient care. Our product development is led by an experienced nurse, John, who works with a network of frontline professionals, frontline healthcare professionals, and engineers to identify and evaluate problems in the tools that are currently used at the bedside and develop new solutions to those problems. Our first product is called the O-Tool, and we launched that commercially just recently here in the US. And with that, our company is much bigger than the O-Tool. But we started out with a problem that needed a solution.
I'm John. This is a nasal cannula, also known as a standard nasal cannula. It delivers low-flow oxygen. Yeah, as soon as I put this on, that's part of the problem. It delivers low-flow oxygen to hospital patients and to home oxygen users. Low-flow oxygen is 1 to 6 liters per minute. The nasal cannula is the most common oxygen delivery device. It delivers low-flow oxygen to hospital patients and to home oxygen users. In a hospital, if you're getting 1 to 6 liters per minute, the nasal cannula is the only device that we use for low-flow oxygen. The Center for Medicare Services reports that more than 99.5% of all home oxygen users are on 4 liters or less of oxygen, so chances are they're getting their oxygen through a nasal cannula. There are 274 million nasal cannulas sold in the United States alone every year, and 400 million nasal cannulas sold worldwide every year. So the nasal cannula is a very efficient device for delivering low-flow oxygen, but it has one major flaw. It only works in the nose. How many people here are mouth breathers? If you've ever woken up in the morning with a dry mouth, you were mouth breathing, to some extent, anyway. We all mouth breathe at varying levels in combination with the nose. It's normal. Sorry, I'll get there. For some people, it is a natural, unconscious breathing pattern, breathing through the mouth. But how about during exercise? As exercise intensity increases, we tend to breathe more through our mouth. Maybe with nasal congestion, like during flu season. If our nose is stopped up, we might breathe more through our mouth. It's normal. Breathing through the nose is preferred, but the fact is, mouth breathing happens. And mouth breathing is a problem if you require supplemental oxygen. And if you're going to get supplemental oxygen, chances are you're going to get it through a nasal cannula, positioned in the nose. And if you're mouth breathing, you may not get all that oxygen. Now we see this very often at the bedside, as evidenced by a drop in oxygen levels. You go into the room, the patient has a nasal cannula positioned in their nose, but they're breathing at times almost entirely through their mouth, and their oxygen levels drop. So what we do is we ask them to take a breath in through their nose. If they're sleeping, and mouth breathing happens often during sleep, we have to wake them up, and sleep is already hard to come by in the hospital. So we ask them to breathe through their nose, they take a breath, oxygen levels come up. But inevitably they go back to their unconscious breathing pattern through the mouth, where nasal congestion persists, and we are now tasked with oxygenating a mouth breather. The next thing we might try to do is we might try to, I'll speak up, we might try to take the cannula and balance it on the chin, like this. But this is not sustainable. The tubing is stiff, and it twists, and it just doesn't stay in the mouth. So it doesn't work. So the next thing we might try to do is we might try to put it in the patient's mouth. And this is just in my nose. But oxygenation is a higher priority. Oxygenation is a higher priority than comfort and sanitation. Patients will sometimes do this as well to themselves. It's not the greatest option, but we don't have another option. So the next thing we have to do, most experienced nurses won't go through those two steps because they know that it won't work. So they'll go straight to a mask. Okay, this is a high flow face tent, and this is a more common oxygen mask. Now these will oxygenate a mouth breather, but at a minimum flow rate of 6 liters per minute. And this is excessive for someone that only needs lower flows of oxygen, not to mention that it's uncomfortable, it can be claustrophobic, and more importantly, for somebody with lung disease, more oxygen is not better, and it can cause an unsafe increase in carbon dioxide levels in their blood, and that causes problems for the patient, and it's very expensive to solve that problem at that point. So what we have at this point is we have a significant gap in care, when all we needed to do was have the ability to position a nasal cannula at the mouth while we were observing mouth breathing. And that's what the O-tool does. It's a simple solution to a common problem. We conceived the O-tool to be able to position a nasal cannula at the mouth, but we designed it to also work at the nose. It has a polyester foam backing, so it's soft and breathable and absorbent. If you guys want to take your samples in. It's soft and breathable, and on the front side we have a injection molded plastic piece that has a series of 3 clips. The middle clip is for the nasal cannula tips, and then the side clips are for the tubing. It's very easy to use. Nurses will use it. You can't put it on upside down. And we feel that with the O-tool, we have a significant opportunity, not just in the nasal cannula market, but in the healthcare market as a whole. Oh, I forgot about that. There's in between the plastic injection molded piece and the foam, there's a thin metal strip that allows for a universal fit. So it fits to anybody's face. All you do when you put it on, you just pinch it, and it sticks. Thanks.
So let me take a step back and give you a little bit of the story about how we've gotten to where we are today, and then I'll share with you a little bit about where I think we're going next. When John first came up with the idea for the O-tool, he stewed over it for a while. He made a prototype and eventually went and bought a book on how to write his own patent application, and he did that and submitted it. And so at that point, he had submitted a provisional patent application, and he knew he had a year to decide whether or not he was going to do anything with it. So we started talking about it, and we eventually went and spoke with an attorney who reviewed the provisional application that he had submitted and helped us start with the non-provisional application. At the time, I was working on my MBA, so I had a great laboratory in which I could really look at our different business options and explore what opportunities we had. And in researching the market that the O-tool would serve, we realized that we had quite an opportunity on our hands. The respiratory market is a big market in itself, not to mention the healthcare market. In 2006, lung diseases accounted for more than 3.3 million hospital discharges. One big category of lung diseases is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, as you may hear it often called. COPD is actually the third leading cause of death in the US. It's the only leading cause of death that's growing in numbers. And more than 13 million Americans have been diagnosed with COPD as of 2008. And this number is actually more like double, according to the American Lung Association, because there are so many people who haven't been diagnosed. And the numbers are expected to grow rapidly as our population ages. So more than 1 million COPD patients are on long-term oxygen therapy, which means they wear oxygen more than 15 hours a day. And as John talked about with the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare research, this is most likely delivered through a nasal cannula. But what we realized also was that the O-tool was really just the tip of the iceberg. The common problems that happen at the bedside happen regularly, and nurses are often called upon to improvise. And so there are problems with the tools that they're given to care for their patients. So we knew we had a big opportunity in medical devices as a whole. But we started out with launching the O-tool. And so our next step was to go work with a design engineering firm to take the concept and the idea, the drawings that John had, and actually turn them into something like what we have today. And this was actually quite different. It's a big change. They also helped us look at materials that we might use. They helped us vet manufacturers, in which we then selected a manufacturer out of North Dakota called Comdell Innovation. Comdell has worked with us for the last 2 years, or I guess a little bit over a year, to really take our design and make it production ready. And so we refined our materials and components. We actually started producing some materials, and we worked on our packaging and labeling, and we also have a plan now for increasing our volume. So right now we're low volume, but we think that this product has a high volume opportunity. We also had to work with a regulatory consultant because this is a medical product that falls under the FDA. And so we worked with a regulatory consultant who helped us first identify our path to market. And then we put together a regulatory manual with our procedures and guidelines. We also registered our company and our device with the FDA. The O-tool is a Class 1 medical device, which is 510(k) exempt, so it means we're just subject to some general controls under the FDA. We also worked with attorneys and insurance agents to make sure that we had adequate insurance coverage and legal coverage and representation, and we began some grassroots marketing efforts. We started introducing the O-tool locally to home oxygen supply home oxygen supply companies, local hospitals, and the VA hospitals in Denver and Cheyenne. And the product is actually currently under review for purchase by the Poudre Valley Health System, which we're very excited about. We're expecting to hear any day on whether they want to purchase. We also just made an agreement with Lincare to become a contracted vendor for them. Lincare is the largest home oxygen supply company in the US. They have more than 790,000 patients that they serve, and they have more than 1,100 stores in the US. So we think this is a big opportunity, and this gives us the chance to sell to their individual stores and have access to their companies. But, so what's next? That's where we are now. We believe that there are three key areas to our success in launching the O-tool. The first is marketing and building product awareness for the O-tool. We believe there are two key primary market areas that we're going to focus on. The first is COPD patients who wear oxygen long-term. We recognize that COPD is also a major cause of hospitalization, so we see that there is a need both at home and in the hospital. The second is hospital patients who are wearing low-flow oxygen. That's a huge market, but these people might mouth breathe, they might have skin discomfort, or they may just find the cannula uncomfortable. And so while the O-tool was designed to be a mouth breathing solution, we actually it was conceived to be a mouth-breathing solution. We actually designed it to be worn either on the lower lip to deliver oxygen in the mouth, or on the upper lip to deliver oxygen in the nose and protect the skin. The second key that we believe to our success is Medicare reimbursement. And while Medicare reimbursement is not essential to selling the O-Tool, we think it is a key decision-making factor for some of our customers. We have been in contact with a Medicare reimbursement consultant on how to go about getting a code, and we are ready to work with her to submit our application to get a code once we have resources available. And the third key to our success is continuously monitoring our supply and labor costs. We will work with Comdell. We already have a plan in place, but we continue to work with them to, as our volumes increase, to fully automate the production and assembly of the O-Tool, which we believe will significantly decrease our cost per unit. And with that, I would just say that obviously we've knocked down a lot of dominoes with the investment that we've personally made so far. We are currently looking for an investor to help us with the next phase of our company, and also to start to look at new versions of the O-Tool and our next product. So with that, I would thank you very much for your time and invite you to answer or ask any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Jamie and John. Let's give them a round of applause. Our other judges today, Corey and Brad, and I don't know who wants to start with the question. Brad, you want to?
I'm happy to. Great idea. I don't know anything about it. I've never worn one myself personally, thankfully. But I have been around others and have seen that very thing, so it's a really innovative, interesting approach to it. The questions I have, so, I spent a lot of time reading through your business plan itself, and spending a lot of time trying to translate the business plan into the financial models that you put together. And then also trying to think about the investment that you seek and kind of how does that translate into a return for the investor. And so first off, my main question is you addressed broadly, here's what we're going to do from a marketing perspective to get to it. Generally, if I were looking at a detailed business plan, would want to understand a little more tactically, who those people are, who those distributors are, maybe even the potential of white labeling through somebody that already has a brand that can take you, because you're small, right, and you're limited in funds, but they could really make a big difference. So I want to kind of hear your reasons why, on that. Financially, I saw the investment and how it translates, and one of your statements in the business plan was a lot relative to sales and marketing, but as I saw the disposition of how it would be spent, it was different than what I kind of expected from that kind of broad statement. So I want to hear how you address that. And then from the investor perspective, what was it, 400,000 is kind of the current. Would like to understand, what does that mean for the investor? How much of the company do they get? What can you expect through the business model that you presented? And then what if an investor came in with $5 million? What would this business look like, and what kind of percentage would you likely give to the investor? Sorry, that's a lot of questions. I should have done one at a time, right?
I might need you to remind me on a couple
Okay.
of them, but we'll do our best. Okay.
Sure.
So we'll talk about distributors, and this is actually a part that I skipped, so I apologize for that. But we think that our key to success is working through distributors. We do have a local distributor that we work with currently, but we're looking at established distributors in the healthcare marketplace, or the manufacturers that have those relationships in the hospitals. We are currently exploring that option. We feel like once we get some sales under our belts, then we'll be able to really approach a Cardinal Health or a larger distributor manufacturer that already has those relationships. So that's definitely a goal of ours. In support of our distribution activities, we actually look at 3 different areas that we would really focus on marketing. The first is to hospital purchasing decision makers and influencers, so nurses, respiratory therapists, and the value analysts in the hospitals. And so we would do that through advertising in some of the, like for instance, Critical Care Nurse magazine reaches, and I don't have the numbers with me, but it's a large portion of critical care nurses across the U.S., and we think that's one good way to really build product awareness for the O-Tool. The second area is just to attend trade shows and to go to the ones where these decision makers and influencers are going. So the NTI show, which is the National Teaching Institute, it's an example of where the American Association of Critical Care Nurses, that is their national trade show. And that's coming up in May. We think that's another really good way for us to build product awareness for the O-Tool.
There's large distributors there too.
Yes, yes. Yes, also to get us in front of distributors. And the third area is to kind of build it from a grassroots level, from the patient level, by approaching and really seeking out patient support groups across the U.S., so the Better Breathers Clubs, and the different clubs that are COPD support groups, etc. We've attended a couple of those meetings already, I should say, John has, and they give you an opportunity to talk about your product and really build awareness for your product. So those are the 3 areas that we would focus on right now to try to build awareness for the O-Tool. Investment? Is that next?
So yeah, relative to the investment, so $400,000, what does that get an investor, and what kind of expected return
Yes.
do you see from that, or say you scale it more?
I think that's negotiable. We have spoken about this with our attorney and our accountant, and they say we need to go through and really determine what the value of the company is based on the amount. We have a turnkey operation right now. We already are producing product, and so what we would be looking to do is scale up and invest in marketing, so and a new product. So I think it's something that we would be open to discussing. And as far as what it would look like with $5 million, the answer is I don't know. I think that it would have to be definitely more of a global, which is something that we intend to do down the road. And our intention was always to reinvest back into the company. So that's why we weren't really seeking a much bigger investment. We wanted to grow more organically, but really at the same time try to get the product out as widely as we could. Is that,
I would say that $5 million, we have a lot of ideas. This is the first one, and this is a good example of how nurses and respiratory therapists and physicians and nurse assistants rig stuff. And this was a situation where we needed a thing for that, and we have a bunch of other ideas that we think that will be just as viable as this. And so if we had $5 million, I think a portion of that would be used at vetting new products.
I would also say that with $5 million investor, I would hope that they would also come in with contacts and be able to help us build a company, because we're learning as we go, and we know that we've learned an awful lot as we've come along, but we're definitely open to having advisors and having people partner with us that can help us take it to another level that we haven't really conceived yet.
So just to follow on to that, sorry, but on the $5 million investment, someone would expect you to have set up a network of advisors, even if they're not employees of that. Just something to kind of keep in mind. I think you should think about this with the end in mind, and what the true market potential of your idea is, and assemble a workforce, even if they're not paid, that can help you scale the business and get you in front of the right people.
We definitely have thought about that, and we have definitely felt fortunate in the people that we have been in contact with. We have close friends who are CEOs of publicly held companies. We have friends who are venture capitalists, and so we've definitely tried to work with them to get some ideas, but we haven't officially or formally formed any kind of an advisory council. So thank you, that's good advice.
My one question had to do with, we're investing in your company, not just this idea. So the fact that you're working on continuing to work and spend some money on R&D, I think that's really important. So I don't have anything else to ask.
Well, I do piggybacking on that, because if I'm investing in this patent, I'm assuming that I'm investing in the whole company, so other patents that would come online, I would have a share of that. But the overhead and the getting started in this, in healthcare, is changing so rapidly. I don't have to tell you guys that. I'm just curious, and I guess piggybacking under Brad's question too a little bit, why not just license this? Why not just look at this and go, hey, let me spend my money on R&D, securing my patents, beefing up my legal team, whatever I need to do to protect all that, and just go for it.
Yes.
We've had that conversation, and we haven't shut the door on anything. We felt like, we've gotten the product to where it is today, and as we've gone along, we've said, okay, what should we do next? And while we've had a plan, we've definitely kept our options open. We have a scenario where we license it. We have a scenario where we would maybe sell it. We have a scenario where we would make it and market it and sell it ourselves. And so, we felt like the further that we got along with this, the more dominoes that we could knock down, the more valuable it is to us when we go out and, if we were to go out and license it or try to sell it. And so I'm not saying that we're definitely open to that as an opportunity. And we feel like that is then...
I'm just sitting here going, I think you guys, this is a great product. I think you guys are really smart and you got a great idea. I want to see more,
yes.
But I don't want to, going through Medicare and all that stuff, I don't want to go through that hassle.
Our
just
next,
to keep it coming and fill that pipeline.
Yeah, we really feel like our core competency is in the innovation side.
Yes,
and so we don't want to get in the manufacturing business. We don't want to be in the distribution business, but we're doing that right now, and we're learning an awful lot. Our next product idea, I'm not going to say what it is, but confidential right now. But our next product idea is actually one that we've already identified we think is a good licensing opportunity.
It would be, and I don't want to get into, but is it complementary to this? I mean, is it this kind of thing or something?
It's not respiratory related.
Not respiratory. Okay. I have other questions, but it's more on the manufacturing and supply and that sort of thing. But again, the more I hear about it and I get to know you guys, I just don't think that's the way to go. I think you just get in there and get it going and get your ideas out there. That's just my opinion. What the heck do I know?
This is just the first one, so
yeah,
that would be great, and we can focus on the other things.
Now, in your business plan, and I can't remember, was there a financial model that just dealt specifically with licensing?
No.
I don't think so. It was all manufacturing.
We
That you
contract.
own yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's what I would like to see from the licensing standpoint.
We don't own our manufacturing. No, we contract that.
Right.
It was a COG.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Okay.
Real quickly, the question I just have is just what's your test marketing now? Your manufacturing now? Do you have any sales?
We do, as of the last few weeks. Because we have this agreement with Lincare now, we've been able to go into Lincare stores and sell, they can order through a central PO. So we sold to a Lincare store in Fort Collins, and we actually, because we were on the news through the competition, we got a call from a Lincare store in Grand Junction who placed an order. So.
And what station was that on?
I think you know.
5% cut off the top. But what's been the reaction from the market?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. No, it's
So
not
like if a
reimbursable yet.
If somebody in the hospital gets this, the rest of the apparatus is covered by insurance, but yours is not.
That's the whole Medicare reimbursement code, because insurance covers that as well, and so that's one of the things.
And I'm assuming you don't see any hurdles getting this approved for Medicare reimbursement.
You're done before.
No, I mean the consultant that we've spoken to has said, she thinks that she can help us out. So.
Okay.
How long does that take? And how much does it cost?
Her services, it doesn't cost anything to actually apply, but working with the consultant to help us get us through, we've estimated at about $10,000.
And the length of time to get the approval?
I don't know the length of time.
Okay.
No.
Okay, questions from the audience? Anyone? Just raise your hands really high. Yes.
Just one question on the reimbursement. Since Medicare does not have reimbursement for oxygen-related supplies, or even oxygen itself, like Lincare, say you have an agreement with Lincare, they would have to purchase this and then give it to the patient. You work that into your...
Well, so the way it works with home oxygen supply is that they actually have one amount that they get for oxygen equipment and accessories. And you actually looked more into that, I'll let you.
There's new regulations that actually lowered that total cost. It's around $200 per month per patient for oxygen supplies. And supplies is in that, and they rent home oxygen equipment, things like that. So when we talked to Lincare, the price of our product was a non-issue. And it just wasn't really an issue they came up with. If we get a Medicare reimbursement code, it certainly makes it a much stronger sell.
And there is a kind of it's not the same device, but it's what we feel like is a complementary device that has a Medicare reimbursement code that we feel would be a good reimbursement rate for us. So that's what we're kind of going with. So.
Good. Any other questions? Yes. We'll have you stand up and I'll give you this.
Thank you. Does your oak tool, and I really like the new logo, by the way. I think that wasn't really shit, but it was very clever and gripping. Does that have applications for sleep apnea?
No, it's not a sleep apnea solution. It's only for cannulas and oxygen delivery. It just positions a cannula, it can position high flow cannulas, all kinds of cannulas, but it does not create a seal that allows for people's airway to stay open. So it is not a CPAP device.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one quick one about your patent, your provisional patent here. We were talking earlier about, and I'm not familiar with the medical instruments at all, but how protected are you right now from someone coming in and just tweaking this a little bit and taking it and running with it?
That's the million-dollar question. We actually have two patents, provisional or non-provisional patent applications pending right now. The first was for the original concept that John came up with, and the second was because we had changed the utility enough that we were able to apply for another patent application. And I'll let John.
Well, the first patent that we have actually applies to kind of a specific part of the market. This one's a much more broad application. And we made the patent, the language in the patent as broad as possible. We will also cover high flow cannulas, end-tidal CO2 nasal cannulas, any nasal cannula. This doesn't fit on every cannula right now. We're going for the low flow nasal cannula market because it's the biggest, but we anticipate that we'll be able to accommodate a lot of other types of cannulas. End-tidal CO2, for example, that's used in sedation and people mouth breathing sedation quite a bit, so we think that we have a pretty big opportunity there.
And so you're on your financial model, thinking about the staffing plan. I guess I don't understand. Is it the two of you and outsourced everything else?
Right now it is. We definitely have plans in the future to add an engineer, add sales and marketing. Right now it's the two of us, and we have an engineering firm that we work with in Boulder that does our design engineering, manufacturer in North Dakota that does that. So we
But in your statements, it's just the two of you through the 5-year period?
No, and actually we add staffing we begin adding in year 2 and continue through, increasing over time.
What was the final headcount at year 5?
I don't remember exactly, but I want to say maybe 6 or 7. And mostly professional engineering.
So is it fair to interpret this as a low, you don't need a lot of employees to generate pretty big ideas?
Correct.
Interesting.
And you have put quite a bit of your own capital and equity in this already.
We have the two of us and our other partner, Joe. We've invested about $90,000 of our own money so far, and time, a lot of time over the last couple of years. You know, I think that we're in. We've bought into this, so we're excited about the future.
Really have. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Jamie and John, Bedside Solutions. After our 15-20-minute break, we'll meet you back here at 3 o'clock. Would you like for our next presentation?
So you don't want to be communicating. And there's no margin.